some Bible stories that inspire hope. Some bring comfort. And then there are stories that stop people in their tracks. Stories that make people pause, question, and even feel uncomfortable. This is one of those stories. When many people first hear it, they ask questions like, why would a loving God ask a father to sacrifice his own son? Isn't that cruel? What kind of test is that? These questions are honest and they matter. Today, instead of rushing past them, we're going to slow down and search for meaning carefully. Not with religious jargon, not with fear, but with clarity, honesty, and depth. If you've ever struggled with this story or never heard it before, stay with me, because what it reveals is far deeper than it appears on the surface.
Long before this moment, Abraham was not a hero or a saint. He didn't grow up knowing God. He came from a culture filled with idols and false gods. One day, God spoke to him and told him to leave everything familiar, his land, his people, his father's house, and go to a place he had never seen. No map, no timeline, just a promise. God promised Abraham 3 things: land, descendants, and a son. That last promise mattered most, because Abraham and his wife Sarah were already old, well past the age of having children. Years passed, then decades. Abraham waited, doubted, questioned, and even made mistakes. But eventually, against all odds, Isaac was born. Isaac wasn't just a child, he was a miracle. He was proof that God keeps his word. He was Abraham's future, his hope, and his joy. Isaac became everything to him.
And that's when the story takes a turn that no one expects. One day, God spoke again and said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, the one you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a sacrifice." Every word matters. God doesn't say a son. He says your only son. He doesn't say a boy. He says the one you love. This wasn't a random request. It went straight to Abraham's heart.
What's shocking is that Abraham doesn't argue. He doesn't protest. The next morning, he gets up early, prepares the wood, and sets out with Isaac on a 3-day journey. 3 days. That's 3 days of walking beside his son, 3 days of silence, 3 days of wrestling with fear and confusion. This wasn't blind obedience. It was obedience carried out with a breaking heart. As they walk, Isaac notices something is missing. He sees the fire, he sees the wood, but there's no sacrifice. So Isaac asks a simple question that carries enormous weight. "Father, where is the lamb for the offering?" Imagine that moment, a trusting son, a father who cannot explain. Abraham answers, God himself will provide the lamb. He doesn't know how, he doesn't know when, but somehow he trusts that God will not break his promise. They reach the mountain. Abraham builds the altar. He places the wood on it. Then he binds Isaac, and Isaac does not resist. That detail matters. Isaac is strong enough to fight back, but he doesn't. The knife is raised. The moment stretches, and just before it's too late, a voice calls from heaven. "Abraham, Abraham." God tells him to stop. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son." Abraham looks up and sees a ram caught in a bush. The sacrifice is provided. Isaac is spared. The promise remains intact. So why did God do this at all? The story is not about God approving child sacrifice. In fact, throughout the Bible, God strongly condemns it. In Abraham's world, many cultures believed the gods demanded their children. God was making something unmistakably clear. He is not like those gods. He does not desire human blood. He does not take children. He provides instead of destroys. What God was truly testing wasn't Abraham's love for Isaac. It was already obvious. He was testing where Abraham placed his ultimate trust. Because sometimes even good gifts can quietly become idols. Isaac was the promise, but Abraham had to learn that the promise could never replace the promise giver. When Abraham was willing to let go, God showed that he never intended to take Isaac, only to reveal Abraham's heart.
There's another layer to this story, one that echoes through history. The mountain where Isaac was nearly sacrificed later became Jerusalem. Centuries after Abraham, another father would walk his son up a hill. But this time, there would be no ram caught in a bush, no voice calling from heaven to stop it. The story of Abraham and Isaac points forward to a greater sacrifice, one God did not ask of Abraham, but took upon himself. And that's where this story reaches us today. It quietly asks uncomfortable questions. What do you hold on to so tightly that losing it would break you? What dream, relationship, or identity have you placed above everything else? If this story is speaking to you, take a moment, pause the video if you need to, and reflect on that. These ancient stories survive because they still confront us where we live. At the end of the story, Abraham names the place the Lord will provide. Not maybe, not sometimes, will. And that's the heart of it. God is not a destroyer of hope. He is the one who protects it. He doesn't test faith to cause pain, but to reveal trust. Sometimes, the very thing we're afraid to lose is the thing God is teaching us to place back into His hands. If this story helped you see the Bible in a new way, consider sharing it with someone who's struggled with this question before. And if you want more thoughtful, grounded stories like this, stories that search for meaning instead of avoiding hard questions, take a second to subscribe to the Gospel Chronicles and stay connected. These stories aren't meant to end here. They're meant to be wrestled with, reflected on, and carried forward. Because when we search honestly, we often discover what Abraham discovered on that mountain, that even in our deepest fear, God provides.